boss. Could you be my husband? Just for one day." The words escaped Kendra Williams before she could think better of them, leaving her voice trembling in the polished, sunlit office. Simon Blackwood, seated behind his towering black desk, froze mid-sentence, pen suspended over a pristine sheet of paper. The sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows caught the sharp planes of his face, making him look even more formidable. His eyes narrowed slightly, scanning her as if she were an unexpected anomaly in a world where everything was calculated, controlled, and precise. "Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Majesty's Echoes of Emotion, where every story touches the heart and whispers the truths we often keep inside. Before we begin, I want to send you love, light, and prayers for your heart, your peace, and your courage. May your day be filled with moments that remind you of your worth, your strength, and the beauty of your journey. May every challenge you face turn into a lesson, and every joy into a memory that warms your soul. Take a deep breath, let the story carry you, and allow your heart to feel, to hope, and to dream alongside the characters you are about to meet." I know it sounds absurd," Kendra rushed on, stepping forward, hands fidgeting with the strap of her tote bag. "But it's just for one day. Saturday. My family's coming to town, and they believe I'm married. They've believed it for years. And if they find out the truth," her voice cracked, "it'll be humiliating. For me. For them. I don't know what else to do." Simon arched a brow, leaning back in his chair, the leather creaking beneath him. "You're asking me, a man you barely know, to pretend to be your husband? 24 hours, that's for a day." Kendra nodded, swallowing hard. Her pulse raced so fast she feared it might echo in the vast office. "Yes. Just one day. Please, sir. You're the only one who can help me. I can't ask anyone else." Simon regarded her silently, his sharp gaze sweeping over her trembling figure. The sunlight reflected off the skyscrapers behind him, turning the skyline into a glittering wall of success and power. She felt small against it, a mere mortal standing before a man who seemed to embody every untouchable ideal she had ever feared. "And why me?" Simon asked finally, his tone low, precise. "Why approach me of all people? I am not a companion for your convenience. I am a man who values precision, control, and, above all, order. You're asking me to step into chaos for, what, sympathy?" Kendra's lips trembled. "Not sympathy. Trust. Respect. I know you understand responsibility, consequences, and discretion. If anyone can help me survive this day without disaster, it's you. I'm begging you." Simon's expression softened just a fraction, though his eyes remained sharp. "One day. Saturday only. Under strict conditions." He paused, letting her hear the weight of his words. "There will be rules, rehearsals, boundaries. This charade is a performance, nothing more. And Kendra, do not confuse this performance with anything else. Not for me. Not for them. Not for you." Kendra's shoulders sagged with relief. Her throat burned as she whispered, thank you so much. I won't disappoint you." Simon's lips twitched with the faintest trace of a smirk. "You should pray I don't," he said flatly, returning to the documents on his desk. Kendra took a hesitant step back, glancing around the opulent office one last time. Marble floors, sleek furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows, and behind them all, the glittering skyline. The city felt alive, indifferent, as if unaware of the desperate plea that had just occurred inside a single sunlit office. She couldn't help but notice the way Simon's eyes lingered on the empty space where she had been. Something had shifted, even subtly, curiosity maybe. Or something sharper, harder to name. Kendra swallowed, taking a shaky breath. "One day," she whispered to herself. "Just one day." Simon didn't respond. He didn't need to. The agreement was made, and yet, the implications hung heavy in the air. This was not a casual favor. This was a high-stakes charade that could explode if mishandled. And somehow, both of them understood it. Kendra straightened her back, brushing invisible dust from her blouse. I should leave you to your work," she said, stepping toward the door. Simon didn't look up. "No," he said, voice deliberate. "Stay. I want to understand the parameters. The details. If we are doing this, we do it properly." Her pulse quickened again. Of course, sir. Whatever you need. He leaned forward, tapping his pen against the desk. Start from the beginning. How did this lie start? How long have they believed you are married? What does your imaginary husband do? Kendra took a deep breath, steadying herself. It began small. My mother, she kept asking when I'd settle down. Every weekend, it was someone new, friends, co-worker sons, church friends. I grew tired of the questions. So I made someone up. At first, it was just a name. Then a life. Then, they believed it. My mother brags about him to anyone who will listen. Family, church, neighbors. Even my grandmother. And now, they're coming to New York expecting to meet him. I can't let them down. I just can't. Simon's eyes flicked to her with a calculating intensity. And this imaginary husband, he travels a lot? Yes, Kendra said, her voice barely a whisper. Successful, kind, everything my family wants in a man. That way, they never ask why he's never around. And my grandmother, she loves him already. She adores him. Simon's jaw clenched slightly, but there was a quiet shift in his expression. He was no longer merely a cold observer. Something flickered, a recognition of her fear, her desperation, the audacity of her request. And your family, he asked quietly, how will they react if anything goes wrong? Kendra met his gaze, unwavering despite the tremor in her chest. They'll be disappointed. Maybe suspicious. But mostly. I just need one day to survive the lie I've boxed myself into. One day to protect my pride, and their love. Simon leaned back, folding his hands on his desk. You understand the risk, he said slowly. One wrong gesture, one misstep, and this could become a scandal. Not just for you, but for me. I have a reputation, Kendra. I do not play games lightly. I understand, Kendra whispered, her heart pounding so violently she thought he might hear it. And I promise, I will do everything you need to make this believable. I just need you to say yes. Simon's gaze softened fractionally, a brief acknowledgement of her courage, of her audacity, of the raw honesty in her eyes. One day, he said finally, voice measured but unyielding. Saturday. We will do this. And we will do it properly. No improvisation. No mistakes. And remember, Kendra's fingers trembled as she pressed the elevator button, the numbers lighting up in sequence as the cab ascended. The city beneath her seemed alive, indifferent to the storm of nerves swirling in her chest. She had rehearsed this walk in her mind countless times, yet no amount of imagining could prepare her for the reality of stepping into Simon Blackwood's world, a world she had only glimpsed through headlines, gossip, and the occasional tabloid rumor. When the elevator doors slid open, she stepped out into a lobby of polished marble and brushed steel, the hum of the city far below. The air was perfumed with a subtle, unplaceable scent, something between expensive cologne and the faint warmth of polished wood. She took a careful breath, reminding herself of the task at hand. This was rehearsal, not romance. Simon was waiting, his posture impeccable, back straight, eyes scanning the documents spread across a sleek, low table in the center of the living room. The apartment itself seemed to defy imagination. Light from the massive windows poured over modern art and minimalist furniture, turning every polished surface into a canvas. A grand piano rested in one corner, glossy black, as if it belonged to a world far removed from hers. You're on time, Simon said without looking up, his voice precise, controlled. Kendra swallowed, glancing at her watch. 6:59. Just in time, I suppose, she replied, forcing a calm she did not feel. Simon's gaze lifted, sharp and calculating. For a moment, he didn't smile, didn't shift, just studied her with a quiet intensity that made her stomach tighten. Traffic? He asked, one brow slightly arched. A small accident on the FDR, she said, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. Simon allowed the faintest twitch of a smirk. Let's hope your excuse game is as good as your acting will need to be on Saturday. Kendra's pulse quickened. She hated to admit it, but the thrill of his presence, of this man who radiated power, sent a shiver through her. She had asked him to step into her lie, into her world, and now that it was happening, she felt simultaneously exhilarated and terrified. Simon finally stood, walking toward her with purposeful steps. The sound of his shoes on the polished floors echoed faintly. He motioned toward the center of the room, indicating she should stand in front of the table. "This is not a casual favor, Kendra," he said. "There will be rules. No improvisation. No emotional entanglements. One day. Saturday only. Understand?" Kendra nodded, gripping the strap of her bag like a lifeline. "Yes. I understand." "Good," Simon replied, turning back to the table. He picked up a leather-bound notebook and handed it to her. "Everything must be rehearsed. Greetings, gestures, hand placements, inside jokes, arguments. Every detail. And any mistakes will reflect poorly on both of us. Do you grasp the severity?" "I do," she said firmly. "I won't disappoint you." Simon allowed the smallest nod, then gestured toward the living space. "Then let's begin." The first rehearsal was awkward, tense, and electric. Simon guided her gently to stand beside him, demonstrating how they would enter a room together. "Walk side by side," he instructed. "Not too close, but close enough to be believable. Hand positioning, your left hand rests lightly on my arm. Practice it." Kendra followed, trying to mimic his movements. Their hands brushed, light contact that sent an unexpected shiver through her. She chided herself mentally, "This is rehearsal. Nothing more. Keep it professional." Simon's eyes caught hers briefly, calculating. "Do not flinch. We are convincing, not hesitant. Hesitation is suspicious." "Yes, sir," she whispered, a tremor in her voice betraying her calm exterior. They practiced introductions, with Simon demonstrating how to extend his hand, maintain a confident smile, and respond to family inquiries without betraying boredom or irritation. Kendra mirrored his motions, each movement precise, rehearsed, yet the proximity, the warmth of his presence, made her heart race. "Your role is not to steal attention," Simon instructed, "but to complement mine. Natural gestures, light touches, confident posture. Your body language must say, 'I belong here.' Not, 'I am nervous.'" Kendra swallowed, absorbing every word, every detail. She had spent her life navigating small acts of courage, but this was a performance on a scale she had never imagined. And yet, she found herself oddly exhilarated. Simon paused and turned to her. "We will now rehearse the hand-holding for the toast." He demonstrated first, gently taking her hand in his. Fingers lightly interlaced, but not clinging. Relaxed, natural. "Your thumb rests lightly against mine." Kendra's pulse quickened as she followed his instruction. The touch was light, deliberate, rehearsed, but electric. She forced herself to focus on the task, counting breaths and holding her nerves in check. "Stop overthinking," Simon said, his tone sharp. "This is not about feelings. It's about believability." "I know," she whispered, cheeks warming. They moved through gestures for greetings, slight bows, casual nods, the right amount of eye contact. Simon corrected her posture, adjusted her stance, and instructed her on the timing of smiles and laughter. Each touch, each gesture, each moment of alignment created a strange intimacy that neither of them had anticipated. When it came to conversation rehearsal, Simon took the lead, prompting Kendra with scenarios. "Your mother asks how long we've been married. How do you respond?" Kendra hesitated briefly. 3 years dating, married for 1? "Correct," Simon said. "And do not elaborate unless prompted. Conciseness is credibility." They practiced discussing inside jokes, disagreements, and shared meals. Simon guided her through a mock argument about him forgetting her birthday, instructing her on tone, expression, and timing. Kendra couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity, even though every interaction was rehearsed. And every laugh, every shared glance, carried a tension that neither fully acknowledged. "Now," Simon said, gesturing to the living room couch, "we will practice the subtle touches. Not intimate, not affectionate, but convincing. Light contact, natural positioning." Kendra followed, stepping into his space as he demonstrated. Their shoulders brushed lightly, their hands met briefly while adjusting a chair. Her pulse raced again, and she forced herself to take a deep breath. "It's rehearsal. Nothing more." Simon observed her, noting the smallest signs of discomfort, the trembling hands, the quickened pulse. He offered a curt nod of approval. "Better. You are learning to be convincing." They practiced this for hours, moving from gestures to words, from introductions to casual banter. The contrast between Kendra's world and Simon's was striking. In her life, interactions were informal, chaotic, full of laughter, mistakes, and real emotion. Here, every movement, every word was precise, deliberate, controlled. And yet, somewhere in the repetition, in the careful choreography of gestures and responses, a spark flickered, a tension that neither rehearsed nor acknowledged. Finally, Simon stepped back, crossing his arms. That will suffice for today. Tomorrow, we repeat. And Kendra, he paused, letting the weight of his gaze settle on her. Remember, this is not real. Not feelings. Not romance. Rehearsal. One day. Saturday only. Kendra nodded, exhaling slowly. Her body was tense, exhausted from the intense concentration, yet there was a thrill beneath it all, a mixture of fear, relief, and anticipation. I understand, she whispered. Simon allowed the smallest trace of a smirk to play at the corner of his mouth. Good. Then you may leave. Prepare yourself. The real test is Saturday. As Kendra descended the elevator back to street level, the city buzzing indifferently around her, she realized how surreal it all was. She had stepped into a billionaire's penthouse, rehearsed a charade to protect a lie, and yet, somewhere in the rehearsed hand-holding, the measured smiles, and the subtle touches, attention had been set in motion. One day. One performance. One man. And already, she felt the first stirrings of something dangerously close to more than just pretense. Tomorrow, she reminded herself. Tomorrow, they would rehearse again. And after that. Saturday. Just one day. One chance. One lie. This is a performance. Nothing more. Kendra's chest heaved with relief. She could barely speak. Thank you, she whispered again, a small, fragile sound. She felt her knees weaken, but forced herself to stand tall, knowing this was the first step in a high-stakes journey she could not turn back from. Simon's attention returned to his paperwork, but the faintest trace of curiosity lingered in his eyes. Kendra paused at the door, glanced back, and whispered one last time to herself, one day, just one day. The office, the city, the sprawling skyline beyond, all seemed to pause for a heartbeat as the implications of her plea settled into the air. One day, one charade, one man she barely knew, and a lie that would change both their lives forever. Kendra stood outside the familiar brick building, heart hammering in her chest. The aroma of fried catfish and sweet cornbread drifted from the kitchen inside, mingling with the faint scent of Sunday clothes and perfume. She clutched her clutch tightly, smoothing the front of her wrap dress, taking a deep breath. Today, her fabricated life would walk into the room with her. Today, Simon Blackwood, the man she had begged to be her husband, would step into the charade, and they would have to make it believable. The front doors opened with a creak, and Kendra's family spilled into the hall, the room alive with chatter, laughter, and the unmistakable chaos of generations gathered for a celebration. Her mother's sharp voice cut through the noise, her grandmother's laugh booming, cousins calling out across the room. Kendra felt a jolt of nerves. This was her world, her family, but now it was a stage, and every eye would judge the man at her side. She heard a soft hum of tires outside and knew he had arrived. Simon's presence was immediate, commanding, even without ceremony. He stepped from the sleek black town car, tailored suit immaculate, expression calm, eyes scanning. Even in this informal, colorful world of family and home-cooked meals, he was striking, imposing, confident, yet disarmingly poised. Kendra's breath caught. He's really here, she whispered to herself, stepping forward to meet him. Simon offered a small nod in acknowledgement. You ready? He asked quietly, tone even, almost teasing. She gave a tight smile. As ready as I'll ever be. Together, they entered the hall. Conversation halted briefly. Kendra's family turned as one, eyes flicking between her and the man beside her. Simon's gaze swept the room, registering the family's size, the energy, the curiosity, an analyst entering unfamiliar territory. And yet, he walked with ease, extending a hand to shake, a smile that was charming without being overbearing. Mom, this is Simon, Kendra said, her voice steady despite the tightness in her chest. Her mother's eyes widened. You didn't say he was this tall, she remarked, her tone half amused, half assessing. Simon responded with a polite nod and a soft, pleased to meet you, ma'am. Kendra led him through the introductions, her stomach fluttering as small interactions began to unfold. Her grandmother, Mama Ruth, stepped forward last, hands outstretched. Simon bent slightly, meeting her gaze, and took her hand in a respectful, deliberate manner. "You treat my baby like treasure?" Mama Ruth asked, eyes narrowing as if testing him. "She's remarkable," Simon said evenly, grounded, determined, and honest. "She keeps me sharp." The corners of Kendra's lips lifted slightly. His words were not rehearsed. They carried the weight of sincerity wrapped in control. He was playing the role, yes, but he was also asserting a presence that no one could ignore. The room relaxed slightly, laughter returning, conversations resuming. Kendra moved beside Simon, letting him guide the interaction. Small touches rehearsed but natural, smiles exchanged at just the right moments. Her cousins were curious, peppering him with questions. Simon answered with casual charm, revealing just enough to satisfy curiosity without giving away the truth. "Finance?" one cousin asked, eyebrows raised. "Yes," Simon replied smoothly. "Stocks, investments, that sort of thing. Depends on the day." The room erupted in laughter, Kendra's anxiety easing fractionally. Even Uncle Benny leaned closer, scrutinizing Simon. "You from money?" Simon's jaw tightened slightly, but he gave a measured response. "Grandfather ran a hardware store. Modest beginnings, practical lessons." Kendra noticed the subtle respect shift in the room. His presence, his calm, and his ability to navigate their curiosity without arrogance began to win them over. It was almost seamless. Almost. Then came dinner. Platters of fried catfish, collard greens, cornbread, and candied yams filled the table, steam curling upward, rich aromas mingling with the family's voices. Kendra watched Simon interact with her relatives, laughing quietly at Desmond's exaggerated stories, complimenting her mother's sweet tea, and helping her grandmother with her chair. Every gesture precise, thoughtful, rehearsed, but somehow imbued with authenticity. During the first round of toasts, her cousin Erica raised her glass. To Kendra and Simon, proving that love doesn't have to be loud to be mighty, she said, beaming. The room echoed with applause. Kendra's stomach knotted. Her heart told her that some part of Simon was no longer simply acting. The way he glanced at her occasionally, just for a heartbeat, carried something unspoken, something unexpected. She tried to dismiss it. "It's just rehearsal. Nothing more." One day. The evening progressed, and the pair moved fluidly from introductions to casual chatter, laughter, and shared gestures. The line between performance and reality blurred with every interaction. Kendra felt a thrill in the back of her mind. This wasn't just acting anymore. Something had shifted, and she couldn't ignore it. At one point, Mama Ruth leaned close, hand brushing Kendra's. "You nervous, baby?" she asked softly. Kendra hesitated. "A little. It's a lot to manage." Mama Ruth's eyes twinkled. "He looks at you like you're the only person in the room. Remember that, baby." Kendra's cheeks flushed. Not for the family, not for appearances. Just for Saturday. One day. Simon, noticing the quiet exchange, leaned slightly toward her, voice low. "Relax. You're doing fine. They're responding to you, to us. Trust the process." "Process," Kendra repeated, a ghost of a smile tugging at her lips. She adjusted her posture, straightened her shoulders, and stepped back into the charade, letting the rehearsed confidence wash over her. The final rehearsal involved small, intimate gestures, how to offer an arm while walking, subtle touches during laughter, the right timing for eye contact during conversation. Each movement, each deliberate contact, carried a weight she hadn't anticipated. She realized that while they were rehearsing a lie, the chemistry between them simmered beneath the surface, careful, restrained, but undeniably present. Simon corrected her hand placement lightly once, guiding her gently. "Not too stiff," he murmured, his voice barely audible over the background noise of family chatter. His proximity sent a shiver through her, and she forced herself to focus. By the time dessert was served, banana pudding and sweet tea, the charade was holding. The family was charmed, amused, and entertained. Simon had navigated their questions, their quirks, and their scrutiny with ease, and Kendra had stood beside him, performing the role convincingly. Yet the tension between them remained, subtle, electric. Every laugh, every touch, every glance carried more than the rehearsal demanded. Kendra's heart raced with the knowledge that this one day, this single performance, was more than just a lie. It was a test of trust, courage, and perhaps something far deeper. As the evening drew to a close, Simon helped her into her coat, offering small deliberate touches that reinforced the story. "Saturday," he said, voice low, controlled. "Be ready. One day. That's all we have." Kendra nodded, smiling faintly. "I'll be ready." The city outside was quiet now, shadows stretching across Harlem as the night settled in. She walked to the curb, watching Simon step into the car with the same calm confidence he had carried all evening. One day. One performance. One lie. But somewhere beneath the rehearsed gestures and practiced words, Kendra couldn't deny the spark that had ignited, fragile but undeniable, leaving her wondering if one day could be enough to change everything. Kendra sat at her tiny kitchen table, the city waking quietly outside her window. Sunlight streamed across the chipped mug in her hands, a faint steam rising from lukewarm coffee. The house smelled faintly of leftover cornbread and sweet tea, a reminder of yesterday's charade. Her fingers brushed the platinum wedding band Simon had slipped onto her finger for the performance. She traced its smooth surface slowly, the weight of it heavier than expected. One day. One lie. And yet, it had already left a mark, not on her skin, but somewhere deeper, somewhere she couldn't name. A buzz from her phone startled her. She glanced at the screen, messages from cousins, friends, even distant family. Each one gushed about Simon, about the performance, about how convincing he had been. Kendra felt a mixture of pride, relief, and an unexpected pang of something unfamiliar, loss. He was gone now. The city hummed outside, but inside, her apartment felt unnervingly still. She set her mug down and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Was it just a performance? Or had yesterday awakened something that could no longer be contained? Her thoughts drifted to Simon. His calm, precise presence had anchored the evening. Every gesture, every word had been carefully measured, yet carried a subtle authenticity that no rehearsal could capture. When he had guided her hand, adjusted her posture, or responded to her family's probing questions, there had been something beneath the surface, a trace of feeling. Kendra shook her head, trying to dismiss it. It didn't matter. It was rehearsal. One day only. And now the day was over. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find Simon, standing there casually, dark navy sweater, jeans perfectly fitted, expression unreadable. No blazer, no armor, just him. "You came?" she asked quietly. "I did," he said simply. "We need to debrief." She stepped aside, letting him in. He carried nothing, not even his usual guarded presence. They sat at her small table, the contrast between his world of opulence and her modest kitchen stark and almost surreal. "I wanted to check in," Simon said, voice low. "You did exceptionally well yesterday. Convincing, natural. Not a single doubt from your family." Kendra exhaled slowly. "Thank you. I couldn't have done it without you. I mean it." Simon's eyes lingered on her briefly. "We did it together." For a moment, neither spoke. The room felt suspended in time, the weight of yesterday's charade still palpable. Kendra's mind raced, wondering what it meant, what it had stirred in both of them. "I have to ask," she said finally, hesitant. "When you were with my family, was it all performance for you? Or did you feel anything?" Simon's gaze met hers, unwavering. "I followed the rules. One day only. No emotional entanglements." Kendra bit her lip. "But—" "No," Simon interrupted softly, yet firmly. "I won't cross that line. Not yet. Not until you're ready. The charade ends Saturday. One day. That's all it was supposed to be." She nodded, though her chest tightened. Something had shifted between them. A spark. A tension. A faint, dangerous pull that neither had fully acknowledged. For the next hour, they rehearsed quietly. Simon guided her through gestures, words, subtle touches, reinforcing the story. Each movement precise, yet each moment carried the silent electricity of proximity. "And the conversation about the Met fundraiser?" Simon asked. "Rehearsed," she said softly. 3 years dating, married for one. Inside jokes, disagreements, light touches. All covered. "Good," he replied. "Remember, details are everything. One slip, one hesitation, and it unravels." Kendra nodded. I won't slip. I promise. Simon's eyes lingered. You're learning fast. Too fast, maybe. She laughed lightly, a sound that seemed to ease some of the tension. Don't let me intimidate you, Simon. Intimidate, he echoed, a trace of amusement in his voice. You're just unervingly prepared. For a performance, anyway. The day passed slowly, the city moving outside as they continued rehearsal. Their conversation drifted into lighter topics, favorite foods, music, anecdotes from childhood. Despite the rehearsal, there was a rhythm forming between them, subtle, unspoken. Each laugh, each glance, carried an undertone neither could name but both felt. Kendra paused mid-story, suddenly aware of the proximity between them. Simon's eyes followed hers, steady, analyzing, attentive. A shiver ran down her spine. She reminded herself, rehearsal. One day only. Simon cleared his throat, breaking the silence. Kendra, I need to ask, if you had a choice in my place, would you have agreed to this? She froze. The question lingered in the air, heavier than any scripted interaction. I think so, she admitted. If it were me and someone's dignity and family, everything they value, were on the line, I'd probably do the same. Simon's expression softened just slightly. Interesting. A long pause settled between them. Outside, the city's hum carried on indifferent, while inside, a different kind of tension built, a quiet anticipation, an unspoken acknowledgement of the storm that Saturday would bring. Kendra shifted, brushing her hand against the table, accidentally too close to his. The small movement sent a jolt through both of them. Simon's eyes flicked briefly to her hand, then back to her face. You see, he said carefully, this is exactly why we must rehearse. One misstep, one miscalculation, and the illusion collapses. I understand, she whispered. For the next hour, they moved through every scenario, greetings, conversations, inside jokes, minor conflicts. Simon corrected her posture, adjusted her gestures, reinforced the script with precise authority. Each touch, though rehearsed, sent subtle waves of tension through Kendra's chest. Finally, as evening approached, Simon stood. That will be enough for today. Rest. Tomorrow, we repeat. Remember, one day. Saturday only. Kendra nodded. I understand. Thank you, Simon. He paused at the door, looking back at her. Kendra hesitated, her heart hammering. She met his eyes, steady despite the storm of thoughts within her. I'd have done what I had to protect the lie. And to survive the day. Simon's gaze lingered, a trace of something unspoken passing between them. Good. That's what I expected. She smiled faintly, stepping back. The rehearsal was over for now, but the tension, the spark, and the stakes remained. Outside, Harlem streets carried on as if nothing had changed, while inside her apartment, Kendra realized the charade had shifted something deeper, something neither she nor Simon could ignore. She rose to leave, pausing at the door. Simon. Yes. What happens if someone notices something off? A glance, a gesture, a hesitation. He smirked faintly. Then we adjust. We adapt. We survive. That's all this is, Kendra. Survival. One day. That's all. Kendra stepped out, her heart racing, hands trembling slightly, yet a flicker of determination settled in her chest. One day. One lie. One man. And somewhere beneath the rehearsed touches and orchestrated words, something had been awakened, dangerous, fragile, irresistible. As the door closed behind her, she raised her phone. A message to the viewers, if they were watching, flashed in her mind. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have risked everything for a single day to protect your dignity and family? The city stretched before her, indifferent and sprawling, and she whispered to herself, Saturday isn't far. One day. One chance. And I won't let it fail. Kendra stood outside the hall, clutching her wrap dress, heart hammering in her chest. The morning sun warmed her face, but it did nothing to calm the storm inside. Today was the culmination of weeks of rehearsals, rehearsed gestures, and rehearsed smiles. Today, Simon Blackwood, the man she had asked to pretend to be her husband, would walk into her world, her family, her lie, and make it believable. She adjusted her dress, smoothing the fabric over her shoulders. One day. One performance. One chance. Every nerve in her body buzzed with anticipation. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb. Simon stepped out, tailored suit immaculate, hair perfectly in place. His presence alone drew the gaze of passers-by, yet he carried it effortlessly, calm and commanding. He extended a hand as she approached. "Ready?" he asked quietly. Kendra nodded, sliding her hand into his. The touch was light, deliberate, rehearsed, but it carried electricity. One day. One chance. The hall doors opened, and the room erupted in laughter, chatter, and familiar chaos. Kendra's family spilled inside, a mix of hugs, jokes, and teasing remarks. And then, the room stilled for a heartbeat as Simon walked in beside her. All eyes turned. Kendra's stomach clenched. Every detail mattered: the angle of his shoulders, the timing of his smile, the ease with which he greeted each family member. "Mom, this is Simon," Kendra said, voice steady despite the racing in her chest. Her mother's eyes widened. "You didn't tell me he was this commanding," she said, half joking, half impressed. Simon responded with a small, respectful nod. Kendra led him through introductions, her pulse quickening as he answered questions, shook hands, and complimented dishes with ease. Each gesture, each word, was precise yet believable. Mama Ruth stepped forward, scrutinizing Simon with her sharp, perceptive gaze. "You take care of my baby today?" she asked. "She's extraordinary," Simon replied, steady and sincere. "Grounded, determined, honest. She challenges me." Kendra's chest tightened. His words weren't rehearsed, they carried weight, truth even within the charade. The party progressed. Food, laughter, conversations, and toasts. Kendra moved beside Simon, letting him guide her through the room, through the narrative they had crafted. Subtle touches, smiles, and gestures were executed flawlessly. But beneath the rehearsed perfection, something unspoken simmered between them, a tension neither could ignore. During dessert, her cousin Erica raised her glass. "To Kendra and Simon, for showing us that love doesn't have to be loud to be powerful." Applause filled the room. Kendra felt her chest tighten, not with fear, but with a flutter of something she hadn't anticipated. The charade had taken on a life of its own. Simon leaned slightly toward her, voice low. "What would you do if you were in my place?" Kendra froze, considering the question carefully. "I'd do whatever it took to protect her, to protect the day, to survive the performance." Simon's gaze softened, a faint flicker of something unspoken in his eyes. "Interesting. I'd probably do the same." They moved through the remainder of the evening flawlessly. Simon's interactions with her family were polished yet natural, and Kendra's presence complemented his perfectly. Every smile, every laugh, every subtle touch reinforced the illusion. As the party wound down, Simon guided Kendra to the exit, their hands brushing deliberately, naturally. The city outside awaited, indifferent to the performance they had executed flawlessly. Once alone in the quiet car ride back to her apartment, Kendra's mind reeled. The lie had been maintained, the illusion perfect, but what of the feelings simmering beneath the surface? She turned to Simon, voice soft. "It worked. They believed us." "Yes," he replied. "But there's something I need to ask. When you were with me, holding my hand, guiding the charade, did you feel it too?" Kendra hesitated, the question twisting her stomach. I don't know. Maybe. But it's supposed to be just one day, just a performance." Simon's gaze met hers, steady, unyielding. "Maybe. But feelings have a way of sneaking in, don't they?" She laughed nervously. "They do. Far too easily." Outside, the streets hummed with life, the world unaware of the performance that had just taken place inside the hall. Kendra felt the weight of her decisions, the precarious balance of truth and illusion, and the growing tension between her and Simon. Once back at her apartment, she closed the door, exhaling slowly. She placed her hand on the platinum ring still warm from Simon's touch. One day. One lie. And yet, her heart felt heavier, fuller, and undeniably stirred. A message flashed in her mind, a thought for the viewers. If you were in my shoes, facing your family with a stranger posing as your husband, what would you have done? Would you risk the lie, the embarrassment, or the feelings that might emerge? Kendra sank onto her couch, staring at the ring, the city outside buzzing with life, and whispered to herself, Saturday is done, but the aftermath, that's just beginning. Kendra sank into the worn armchair by her window, fingers tracing the edge of the platinum wedding band. The city stretched endlessly below her, the lights blinking like distant stars, indifferent to the storm that churned inside her. One day. One performance. One lie. And yet, it felt heavier now than she had imagined. He had been convincing. Perfectly composed. Yet beneath that, she had glimpsed the faintest cracks, the briefest flickers of something more, something real. A soft chime at the door startled her. She rose, smoothing her dress, and opened it to find Simon standing there. No blazer. Just a dark navy sweater, perfectly fitted jeans, and that inscrutable expression that made her heart lurch every time. "You forgot something," he said, voice low and even. "What?" she asked, her pulse quickening. "Not forgotten. Unfinished." He stepped inside, leaving the door ajar, the faint scent of his cologne settling in the room. He moved closer, settling on the edge of the sofa, his presence commanding yet strangely gentle. Kendra hesitated. "Unfinished." "Yes," he said, eyes locking on hers. "The story. Saturday, the day of the charade. We performed flawlessly. But beneath the surface, something shifted. I felt it. Did you?" She swallowed, heart hammering. I don't know. It's complicated. I thought this was just one day, just a lie. But. His gaze sharpened, but not in judgment, curiosity, something fragile, unspoken. "But," Kendra trailed off, biting her lip. She looked down at the ring on her finger, tracing its smooth edge. It felt real, more than it should have. Simon leaned back slightly, running a hand through his hair. "You're not the only one," he admitted softly. "For a moment, holding your hand, guiding you. I forgot it was pretend. I forgot it was one day. And his voice faltered just slightly, the precision slipping. Kendra's breath caught. The carefully constructed barrier between rehearsal and reality trembled. "You what?" He exhaled slowly, forcing the words out. "I wanted to see more. To know you beyond the performance. Beyond the charade." Her heart raced, a mixture of fear and exhilaration. The city outside continued its indifferent hum, but inside, the room seemed suspended in time. The rehearsal was over, the family had been charmed, but the emotional undercurrent now surged, untamed. Kendra stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Simon, we said no feelings. One day. That was the rule." "I know," he said quietly. "But rules don't control feelings. They just make them harder to ignore." She glanced at the ring again, a tremor running through her hand. This was supposed to be pretend. Just one day. "And yet," he trailed off, eyes searching hers, vulnerable for the first time. "And yet, it isn't. For me, not anymore." Kendra's chest tightened. She had never imagined him admitting something like this, not in his carefully controlled world. "You're serious," she whispered. "Deadly serious," he replied. "But it doesn't mean I expect anything. We still have Saturday's lie to manage. But when it ends, maybe we see what happens." The weight of his words pressed on her, exciting and terrifying. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Simon, I feel it too. More than I should. But one day, one lie. I don't know if I'm ready." He reached out, brushing her hand with his. The touch was deliberate, yet tender. "Neither am I," he admitted. "But that doesn't mean we ignore it. That doesn't mean we stop noticing it." They sat in silence for a moment, the kind that was thick with possibility, unspoken confessions, and the electric tension of unacknowledged feelings. Kendra's mind raced, every rehearsal, every touch, every glance replayed with a new intensity now, colored by the truth beneath the performance. "You're dangerous," she whispered finally. "I've been told the same about you," he replied with a faint smile. Her chest warmed at the subtle humor, but the seriousness of their conversation pressed down again. "Simon, if anyone knew my family, your world, they'd think we were insane. A maid asking a billionaire to pretend to be her husband for a day, it's absurd." "Yes," he said, eyes softening, "absurd. And yet, here we are." A knock at her door interrupted them. Kendra froze, glancing at the clock. "Who?" Probably no one important, Simon muttered, standing. He moved to the door and peeked outside, then returned, shaking his head. False alarm. But it's a good reminder, this world doesn't wait for us to figure ourselves out. Kendra's mind drifted back to Saturday, to the careful choreography, the applause, the laughter, the subtle touches that had carried them through the day. And now here, alone in her apartment, everything felt raw, fragile, and dangerously real. Simon turned to her, eyes serious. Kendra, what happens now? She hesitated, considering. Now? We survive the aftermath. We figure out what this means, together. Carefully. Slowly. No rushing. Slowly, he echoed. I like that. Her chest tightened, her hand brushing against his again. And Simon, one question. If you had been in my shoes, holding my family to the lie, walking through the charade, what would you have done? He paused, lips pressed together, considering. I'd have done everything I could to protect them. And, to protect you. No matter what it cost me. A shiver ran through her. The honesty in his voice was intoxicating, frightening, impossible to ignore. She realized then that the game they had played, one day one lie, had changed them both in ways neither could have anticipated. Kendra looked at him, daring. And if I had failed? If the lie crumbled? Simon's expression softened, a rare vulnerability breaking through the controlled exterior. Then we'd face the consequences. Together. Her breath caught. Together. The word was heavy with meaning, heavier than any rehearsal, any performance. She could feel it in the warmth of his presence, in the faint electricity of proximity, in the unspoken promise that lingered between them. For a long moment, neither spoke. Outside, the city hummed with life, oblivious to the intimate storm inside her apartment. Finally, Kendra broke the silence. Simon, can I ask you something else? Anything, he said quietly. What if someone watching this, someone you trusted, saw the truth? Would you still take the risk? The exposure, the scrutiny. He considered, eyes locking with hers. Yes. Because sometimes, the risk is worth it. Sometimes the truth is more valuable than safety. Kendra swallowed hard, her chest tightening at the words. Truth, more valuable than safety. The idea reverberated through her, echoing everything she had fought for in her life, her dignity, her family, her identity. Simon reached out, brushing a curl from her face, his touch deliberate, steady, intimate. Kendra. I don't know where this ends. But I do know this, I want to explore it. Carefully. Honestly. No more pretending. No more rehearsals. Her pulse raced. The thought of stepping into honesty, into something real, after weeks of performance, made her head spin. Simon, are you serious? Deadly serious, he whispered. Kendra's lips curved into a small, uncertain smile. Then, maybe I am too. They sat together, hands brushing, breaths mingling in the quiet apartment. The city hummed beneath them, indifferent, sprawling, alive. And for the first time since the lie had begun, Kendra felt the possibility of something real, a fragile, dangerous, exhilarating something that neither rehearsal nor performance could contain. Her mind flashed to the viewers. If you were in my shoes, standing at the edge of a lie, a charade, and suddenly confronted with truth, what would you do? Would you risk everything for honesty, even if it scared you? Kendra exhaled slowly, feeling a tension lift slightly, replaced by something new, possibility, anticipation, and a quiet, undeniable hope. Kendra woke to the soft light spilling through her blinds. The previous day's charade felt surreal, a vivid memory she struggled to reconcile with reality. One day. One lie. And yet, the spark that had been ignited between her and Simon refused to fade. She touched the platinum ring on her finger, warm from yesterday's touch, a reminder that what had started as a performance had grown into something more dangerous and intoxicating than either of them could have anticipated. The phone buzzed on her nightstand. She glanced at the screen, messages from her family. Praise, admiration, teasing comments, and one cryptic text from Simon, meet me at the hall. We need to talk. Her pulse quickened. What could he want now? She dressed quickly, choosing a simple blouse and skirt, nothing that screamed luxury or wealth. Today, she realized, the charade was over. What came next could no longer be rehearsed. Simon was waiting at the entrance of the community hall, leaning casually against the sleek black car he had used the day before. The air between them was charged, silent, thick with anticipation. He straightened as she approached, offering a small, approving nod. "Kendra, ready?" "As ready as I'll ever be," she said, her voice steady despite the nervous flutter in her chest. They entered the hall together. Unlike yesterday, there was no performance this time, no scripted greetings, no guided interactions. The room was alive with laughter, conversation, and family energy, but the air between them was different. Tension lingered, subtle but undeniable, as everyone sensed that the day had changed. Mama Ruth stepped forward, scrutinizing Simon. "You've got your work cut out today, young man," she said with a sharp glint in her eye. Simon nodded, lips pressed together. "Understood, ma'am. I intend to rise to the occasion." Kendra watched him move through the room, interacting naturally yet with deliberate charm. He shook hands, answered questions, complimented dishes, and engaged with her family in a way that was authentic, yet subtly controlled. Every gesture, every smile, every laugh was believable. And Kendra realized that she was no longer nervous about the performance. She was observing a man she had come to trust, one whose presence had become a stabilizing force rather than a source of anxiety. The party progressed smoothly, with conversations flowing naturally and laughter echoing across the hall. Kendra felt a subtle shift in the room. Her family had warmed completely to Simon, accepting him not as a stranger or a borrowed companion, but as a man worthy of their respect. The rehearsed touches from yesterday now felt like genuine gestures of connection. During a lull in the evening, Simon leaned close to Kendra, voice low. "Kendra, are you ready for what comes next?" She swallowed, heart racing. "I think so. But it won't be easy." "No," he admitted. "Nothing worth it ever is. But we face it together, right?" Kendra nodded, feeling a quiet strength settle over her. The rehearsals, the charade, and the tension had all led to this moment, a confrontation with truth, consequences, and possibility. As the final guests began to leave, Simon took her hand, guiding her to the side of the hall. "We need to tell them the truth," he said quietly, glancing at her. "Not just my family, not just yours, everyone who needs to know." Kendra's stomach tightened. She had expected this moment to be distant, a conversation for later. But the time had come. "Yes," she whispered. "It's time." They gathered her family and Simon's closest associates in the center of the hall, the chatter dimming as they approached. Simon spoke first, calm and measured. "Everyone, I need to be honest. Saturday was different. It wasn't just a performance. Kendra asked me to stand by her, to help her preserve her dignity in front of her family. And I agreed." The room shifted, the words landing heavier than expected. Kendra stepped forward. "I asked Simon to pretend to be my husband for one day. A lie, to protect myself, my family, and my story. But now, I can't hide the truth anymore. Not from you. Not from myself." A hush fell over the room. Her mother's eyes widened. Mama Ruth studied her silently. Cousins and uncles waited, leaning forward with curiosity. "I've spent too long living in shadows," Kendra continued, voice steady. "Pretending to be someone I wasn't. Hiding who I am to make others comfortable. That ends now." Simon's hand found hers, fingers intertwining. "And I am not pretending either. What started as a favor, a single day, grew into something real. Kendra and I," he hesitated, swallowing, "care for each other. Deeply." The revelation hung in the air. Gasps, murmurs, and silent evaluations rippled through the family. But Kendra's voice carried calm authority. "Yes, it began as a lie. But lies can reveal truths. And the truth is this: Simon respects me, values me, and has chosen to stand beside me. Not as an act, not as a charade, but as himself." Her mother's eyes softened, Mama Ruth's face broke into a faint smile, and even the skeptics in the room seemed disarmed. The weight of judgment lifted slightly. Simon squeezed her hand, a silent reassurance, before releasing it to face her family fully. "I understand the concerns, the questions, the curiosity. And I welcome them. Because Kendra is extraordinary, and she deserves to be seen for who she is. Always." Kendra exhaled slowly, the tension in her chest easing. The truth had been spoken. The consequences were uncertain, yes, but the foundation had been laid. One day of performance had transformed into a lifetime of possibilities. Later, alone with Simon in her apartment, the quiet hum of the city outside, Kendra reflected on the whirlwind of events. The performance had ended, but the emotional aftermath lingered. Simon's presence filled the room, not with dominance, but with gentle assurance. "Kendra," he said softly, voice low. "What we did, the charade, the lie, it changed me. Made me see things I'd ignored, feel things I'd avoided. You changed me." Kendra met his eyes. "And you changed me, Simon. I've spent years surviving, protecting myself, hiding behind lies. But you made me feel seen. Real. And that's worth everything." He stepped closer, brushing a curl from her face, deliberate and tender. "Then we don't stop here. No scripts, no rehearsals. Just us. Honestly, openly, without fear." Kendra's lips curved into a small, genuine smile. "Then, maybe I am ready." Simon nodded, relief and hope flickering across his features. "Good. Because I am too." The city outside continued its indifferent rhythm, lights blinking, cars passing, lives moving on. Inside, Kendra and Simon embraced the new reality, one born from a single day of audacity, courage, and honesty. Kendra thought of the viewers, imagining the questions they might have asked themselves. What would you do if faced with a lie that became real? Could you risk your heart, your dignity, and your truth for someone worth it? She traced Simon's hand with her own, a quiet vow forming between them. One lie had started it. One truth would continue it. And together they would face whatever came next, not as performers, not as charade participants, but as two people fully seen, fully committed, and daring to be honest in a world that often demanded masks. As the night deepened and the city lights glittered below, Kendra whispered softly, leaning against Simon, "One day became everything." Simon smiled, pressing a kiss to her temple. "And it's only the beginning." If this story moved your heart, stirred your soul, or reminded you of the power of courage, love, and resilience, don't let it end here. Comment below and share your thoughts. What would you have done if you were in Kendra's shoes? Who in your life has challenged your heart the way Simon challenged hers? And if you want to be part of this journey, to hear more stories that echo through the heart and stay with you long after the video ends, subscribe to Majesty's Echoes of Emotions and hit that notification bell. Let's continue walking through these stories together, feeling, learning, and growing with every word. Your presence here is your power, let it shine.